Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. This is your host Kelsey here. Today I am here with Raare. She's the Chief Operating Officer at Raare Solutions. Raare, great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Kelsey. Good to be joining you guys.
Absolutely. So you are the Chief Operating Officer. Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Raare Solutions. We are a CRM marketing agency. And CRM is customer relationship management. And I've been at this position for 6 years, helping do business development. And actually, when COVID hit, I changed my title to Chief Optimism Officer because I realized that brands that were sending messages of positivity rather than doom and gloom were ones that I resonated with. And I also knew for our employees that they needed enthusiasm and something fun and uplifting. So I would have a weekly happy hour where we'd meet at 4 o'clock every Thursday, and I would do a top 10 list of top 10 things that have improved during COVID. And the number one thing was sleep.
Yeah.
And, and all the top things, what a really beautiful thing was that people were cooking with families.
Yes. Yes. That's certainly a skill that I know that I took up during COVID, but that's really great. So how did Raare Solutions come to be then?
So Raare Solutions is the brainchild of Esther Paulson. She is the CEO and founder. Esther and I worked together at Jaguar Land Rover years ago, almost a decade ago, and we formed a very mutually respectful relationship as colleagues and friends. And she kept me in mind. And when she started the business, she poached me. And she says, hey, come along with me and help me develop the business, get my name out there. It's a small woman-owned business. We have 25 employees. When I started, we had 10.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And so what we do is she actually started the business with a specific eye towards automotive, and that is exquisite customer journeys for the automotive buyer and leaser.
Okay.
And if you look at automotive, it's one of the most complex customer journeys anywhere around. So she, being a female in the automotive male-driven industry, has just blazed trails, established a name, and she's just a data wizard.
Wow, that's amazing. That's certainly, I love this. I love just female owned, female run. I think it's a phenomenal, and especially too in like a very male dominated industry, like you said, that's a journey to take on. Wow. So, are you folks still in the automotive industry? Are you branching out other ways?
We certainly are. Automotive is one of our sweet spots, and we're recognized in automotive as having exceptional customer journeys for nurturing, for acquisition, conquesting a new consumer, a new customer during the ownership phase, and then obviously for retention and loyalty. So it's a very long journey, super complex. Matter of fact, the team created a customer journey map that took up an entire wall of a building.
Wow.
Yeah, it's extremely complex and
Wow.
complicated. So kudos to Esther and the team for creating that. But during COVID, we also have luxury is also one of our target verticals because in automotive, we had travel, luxury travel is one of our clients. And it was in the cruise sector. And as you know, cruise got nailed during COVID.
Oh, right.
And in addition to that, automotive got hammered because manufacturing, chips, shipping got delayed tremendously.
Yep.
So we saw a decrease in our clientele there as well. So it got me thinking, as development and operating officer, it's like, I need to start thinking of verticals that are resistant to pandemics, that can withstand crises. And one of the things that really interested me then was, okay, healthcare, obviously.
Yeah, huge.
Right? because COVID is a new world, and we're going to have this level of focus on healthcare, wellness, prevention, and protection for a long time.
Right.
So healthcare got me really interested in that, and that made me shift to last year, where and it wasn't specifically healthcare. It was kind of the state of where America is with social justice and paying attention to Black Lives Matter, to the whole binary, gender bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And it really inspired me to create a new arm of the business called multidimensional marketing. And that is engaging authentically with consumers through the lens of culture, gender, and generation. Mm-hmm. And you know this as, I'm guessing, a millennial yourself, that the channel matters. It's not just the message, it's the channel, it's the content, it's the way you do it. And I do teach classes, and I just finished a lecture at a university where I talked about how to create harmony in a multi-generational workplace, because the way you communicate matters, not just with your consumers, but with your colleagues and your friends.
Absolutely, absolutely. And communication's a skill, I don't it's changed a lot over the years. So being able to create that harmony in a workplace, I mean, I imagine that was an amazing lecture. And being able to have those conversations, especially about diversity, being able to be heard and understood, those are so important to people, that I think it's amazing that you're taking that into marketing and into the workplace.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very nice, very nice. So how does your company generate revenue then, as you embark in this new kind of outreach? Talk to me a little bit about that, and also about Rare Diversity, or Rare Solutions as well.
Okay, so this actually primes us for a really good segue, and that is, I'm right now in the process of creating a new division for Rare Solutions, and it's called Rare Diversity. Mm-hmm. And it kind of hinges on the multicultural, multidimensional marketing, but it's with a very specific focus, and that is helping brands engage authentically and find hard to find audiences, mm-hmm. diverse audiences, people of color, black and brown people, or a specific age group. Mm-hmm. And in a very specific focused way, where if maybe you're doing a product launch, mm-hmm. or if you're in healthcare, if you're looking to launch a specific drug that would benefit a specific group, maybe it's an age group, or migraines, and so it's really exciting for me to take that background of the diversity piece and the multicultural piece, and then layer it and say, okay, let's create an arm, a division that helps brands actually find those very hard to find diverse audiences, right? So they can actually move the dial for these communities who are underserved in healthcare, in wellness.
Right.
So I'm launching this arm right now. I'm going to be attending a conference in a couple of weeks to speak to people in healthcare and life sciences, and to understand and to share my proposition with them.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds almost, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like culturally responsive marketing, and being able to apply to those who, don't necessarily have the resources, or, the knowledge base to access your clients. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, and that's a great way of putting it. I like that. The language around culturally responsive, because traditionally, when you look at America, let's say, you probably don't remember this commercial, but there's a famous commercial called Baseball, Hot Dogs, Apple Pie, and Chevrolet. And this was 50 years ago in America, 1974, where this was what America was, this was what their heart and soul was about. Mm-hmm. It was about playing baseball and eating, hot dogs, apple pie. Now it's more like football, pizza, Ben and Jerry's, and electric vehicles. It's a totally
Very
different world.
Very
totally different. So, the core American audience and the way brands would communicate or market to them has shifted dramatically. Mm-hmm. And that means the channel that is used matters. It means the way you engage and nurture them matters. Mm-hmm. You can't just jump into it. the way the television ads lead you to down that funnel of, there has to be a level of nurturing and trust first. And then you can open the door to all those other elements. And then of course you've got the whole multi-generational element that you throw in there. I happen to be very lucky because my career has in the past couple decades, I've been able to see how marketing has evolved. And that means old school, working for the New York Review of Books, doing typesetting and letting, by hand. And then going into the emergence of the internet in the 90s and seeing how, wow, this is a whole different ballgame. But I'll tell you this much. In the 90s, I was working at Lehman Brothers, and the question that came to the internet teams was, well, how can I make money off of this? You've got a website. Yeah, so what? And the answer was lead generation. You can actually drive traffic closer to your end goal by this means. And then social media came around, and I got a chance to see the same question. Okay, so what? So I can communicate with my cousin in Poughkeepsie, right? What does that bring to me? And the answer was word of mouth marketing, which, as we know, is 400 times more powerful than an actual ad. And the trust element from a friend or a colleague or somebody that a family member that is 82% more likely to change your mind towards that brand.
Wow, that's a great statistic. Okay. Wow. Okay. Talk to me a little bit more about that lead generation.
So here's a great story. I was an industrial psychologist, right, which is about human behavior. That's what I studied. I had no idea it would evolve into customer journey and the customer experience, but it did naturally, as I talked about the evolution of marketing, right? It's like, okay, so I have a newspaper, and there's a form. It used to be called BROC, a little card. You fill it out, you send it in. Yeah, I want this magazine, right? and then another way of doing that was, I love talking about this. It's an old school marketing ploy, and that is the Columbia House Record Club would actually say, get 12 albums for 1 cent if you refer us to a friend. And that is called member get a member marketing, right? It's again word of mouth, but this was 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Right.
And they were willing to do it, right? So the lead generation has always existed. It's just changed how you implement it, and the ways and vehicles that a person can engage with a brand have opened up exponentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So who would you say, with Rare Solutions, who would you say your target and buyer persona would be? Like who do you really, work to connect with?
Yeah, so it would be there's a very specific niche with Rare, and that is finding hard to find audiences, right? Based on business criteria. I need to find automotive owners in a specific region that might be interested in test driving this fantastic vehicle during this period of time, right? So that is our specialty. It is mining by region, by location, by customer criteria, by cultural criteria, as you were saying, to find and attract and invite and engage, and then maintain that nurture with those consumers to make them and transfer them into an acquisition. Now, taking a look at that and transferring it to Rare diversity, the people that I'm interested in engaging in, because we're talking about mining, again, those diverse and hard to find audiences, would be pharmaceuticals, would be people who, or companies that run clinical trials, perhaps a company that's interested in doing product testing, right? Because these are very specific niche. You can break it down by location, you can break it down by consumer type until the cows come home. Right. And that helps the brand refine how they are looking at segmenting their audiences, and obviously getting the response back that they hope to get.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So talk to me about how does the software work to do that for you then?
So it's not probably at this point a software, it is our process.
Process.
It is a service. So we have proprietary service that actually will go through, and based on our criteria,
Mhm.
it will say, okay, let's see how you are segmented. Let's see if you're meeting these criteria that will get you that segment that is essential and
Mhm.
necessary to get the response. The
Mhm.
second thing that we'll take a look at, though, is let's see what is currently in play with your campaigns.
Mhm.
People spend a lot of money on their CRMs, their customer relationship management. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars. They spend money on a team, the digital team, to run it. I'm not interested in changing that. I'm interested in finding out what is not working
Mhm.
in that existing marketing stack, and
Mhm.
let us get in there, and then
Mhm.
we can identify what is not functioning or converting for the brand.
And it sounds like that's a really personalized approach. Is that one of the reasons that you think that Rare Solutions stands out among your competitors?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not just, I talked about the customer experience. It's not just, we're bringing a team to help you take care of your Salesforce CRM. That's
Mhm.
not it.
Mhm.
We actually understand the brand's vision and what the vision for the customer is.
Mhm.
So we become the customer and put ourselves in the customer's shoes, so we understand what that journey is,
Mhm.
whatever the goal might be.
Mhm. Mhm. And it sounds too like you bring a very different approach to Rare Solutions that I think a lot of companies don't necessarily have.
Yeah, well, expand on that. I'm curious to hear what that is.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of companies you're able to bring a cultural culture, like I said, culturally responsive lens to marketing, and I think a lot of marketing can be a blanket marketing strategy, but it sounds like with Rare Solutions, you really dive down in and like I like the word mine that you use. You mine and you're able to diversify and really take a look and analyze deep down, what will be the best solution for your clients on that personal level.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to be launching this new arm of the business, because I am that culturally diverse culture that's assimilated into America,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and so I have experienced the transition from America,
Hmm.
and seeing that the shift throughout the years. There's a stat that by the year US consensus put out, and that is by the year 2050, the white majority of America will become the minority, which means other segments will overtake it. And while this terrifies some people, there's something to remember, and that is America is a very young country. We're only 250 years old. If you look at dynasties and empires that have resided and lived throughout the years, that
Hmm.
have existed for millennia, it's not always been white central focused. There
Hmm.
have been the Yang dynasty, the Persian, Mongolian, and so the world has been ruled. And we're talking for the maybe past 1,000 years is European way, and this
Hmm.
is the era that we live in right now.
Hmm.
Previously, for the past 5,000 years, has
Right,
been not.
right.
So it's a very important lesson that cultural assimilation has
Hmm.
happened throughout the world since the beginning of time.
Hmm.
And those cultures bring such range of diversity, such a range of richness to the
Hmm.
American fabric.
Hmm.
You think of the immigrants coming, Italian immigrants, right? Pizza is what the number one food in America, but Italians weren't considered white until the 1960s.
Hmm. Yep.
So there is a phase of assimilation that it takes each culture. And I don't care if you came over in the Mayflower, you're Puritan, or that you're a recent immigrant. The
Hmm.
point is, we are all guests in this country. The
Hmm.
true owners and the true people who own this land
Hmm.
are indigenous.
Hmm.
We're all guests. And that
Hmm.
means, we all want the American dream. We all want to have the white picket fence and the two cars and so forth. And people are willing to work for it.
Hmm. Hmm. That's it's a pretty profound statement that you all made about us being guests, and it's true. And I said it before and I say it again. I love how you're taking this approach to marketing, and certainly the roots that it has, within the assimilation and that need for, constant reflection and, self-awareness as well.
And the other part of that is, if we all want the American dream, that means we're all more alike than we are different.
Hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
it's the similarities. Everybody wants a great life, right? Everybody wants to make money and have their families fed and healthy and happy. That's the goal of people who come to America. We really want to have a better life.
Hmm. Hmm. And it sounds too like, on a very broad scale though, that you're giving a lot of businesses that opportunity, being able to mine and find diverse populations. Like you're being able to pull all of them together. Like you said, we're much more alike than we are different. So being able to appeal to more audiences, it sounds like that's really the goal of Rare Solutions. Am I right?
It is absolutely, and there's also a secondary piece, and that is a financial element. That is, if you look at the three largest minority groups in America right now, African American, Hispanic, and Asian,
Mhm.
each one of these audiences have $1 trillion worth of spend behind them. So you're talking $3 trillion right off the top
Mhm.
that these groups have to spend,
Mhm.
and they spend it. They're gonna use their money, right? They want to
Right.
spend it. The
Right.
brands that understand this and are willing to engage authentically and respectfully, which is my whole goal. It's
Mhm.
not just go out there and hammer them with messages or try to
Right.
market to them. No, we want you to understand that we know what you're used to and accustomed to and how you're used to being marketed to, what language you're being marketed to,
Mhm.
and then engaging with you respectfully
Mhm.
shows them that this brand actually cares about me and they're willing to take the time to
Mhm.
get to know me.
Hmm. It goes back to those honest, genuinely honest, rooted business practices that you're coming out with your authentic self, because that's how people are presenting to you that they have a need or they are looking for something, which is why, it it's so important that you're providing, these honest spaces for conversation and, solutions for your clients.
And we're on the precipice right now where diversity is, social justice is just inescapable. This is the time
Hmm.
for people to start understanding, embracing. And the truth is, everybody in America comes from somewhere else.
Hmm. Yep.
Everybody comes from somewhere else,
Hmm.
right? So again, driving home the message that we are, quite frankly, more alike than we are different.
Yes. Yes. Yes, absolutely. So talk to me a little bit about your marketing strategy. So what does it look like when you are what does it look like marketing for you being culturally responsive?
It means attracting brands that have that same mindset,
Hmm.
attracting businesses, people, C-suite who, decision makers who are of the same mind
Hmm.
and that have that same criteria for their businesses themselves. So that's the first phase. And then the second one is then being willing to leverage that information, right? It's let's find where your valuable, diverse audiences are. And
Hmm.
then comes the actual engagement. What
Hmm.
kind of messaging can we put in there? For example, it would take, um, historically, African Americans have a sense of doubt with medical community,
Hmm.
from past experiences, being
Hmm.
left out, being, abused, quite frankly.
Hmm.
So you can't just market the same to everybody.
Right.
The businesses who want to engage have to understand there is a playbook per se to, it's not even just by with minorities, it's also maybe by with women, with a
Absolutely.
specific gender type or a specific age group.
Hmm.
So it's having, brands are, everyone's saying, oh, we're diverse, we're inclusive, right? But the brands who really show it and embrace it are the ones who I think would resonate with what I'm saying, the message we're bringing, and the powerful tools we're bringing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Talk to me a little bit more about those tools. Like what would you say your marketing strategy for educating prospective customers would be?
Yeah, so definitely a really good means of doing that, is in person in conferences.
Mm.
I have written extensively. I do speaking engagements. I think the biggest impact is in person when you see somebody, you're like, wow. But then doing something like this,
Mhm.
content marketing with podcasts, where I'm reaching an audience that I wouldn't because you have a deep audience with, Write for Me,
Mhm.
getting more visible with the messages,
Mhm.
uh, being a thought leader, by writing articles. I wrote an article last year about how to change your customer journey into a cultural journey, and it got quite a bit of traction, and it was terrific. This is exactly the kind of messaging I want. The taking it next step to reach the decision makers is obviously my next goal.
Okay. Okay. So if someone wanted to read that article, where would they be able to find that?
They would be able to find it on my LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
But I'm hoping to have a deeper repository of all these type of, as you said, culturally responsive thoughts leadership articles
Absolutely.
in one repository, which would probably reside under rare diversity.
Rare diversity. I love that. And it's a fantastic platform to be able to provide that thought leadership and, be an authority and an expert in your space. Um, so would you say LinkedIn has been the most successful tool for marketing for rare diversity, or are there other platforms that you think both Rare Solutions and Rare Diversity have benefited from?
No, I think LinkedIn is definitely at the top, definitely at the top because it is professional,
Mhm.
right? This is, if we're talking pharmaceutical or major brands, I don't think other like social Instagram or so forth would penetrate as much.
Mhm.
And also because I myself, as a personal spokesperson, as a cultural storyteller,
Mhm.
have a huge, huge following. So my personal brand now diverges along with the rare diversity brand.
Very nice, very nice. Well, Reka, this has been an absolutely wonderful conversation. I loved talking about how you mine and diversify marketing. Really, the customer, not only it being a customer experience, a cultural experience now, I think that you are definitely a thought leader, and this has been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks so much, Kelsey. It's been a pleasure joining you on your podcast.
All right. Thank you, Reka, Chief Optimizing Officer at Rare Solutions. Great to have you.
Thanks so much, Kelsey.